Okay, so this is the configuration tool that will allow you to set up a configuration for your iCube. It lets you use any number of inputs and DTMF codes to control any number of outputs and announcements. For the first example, we're going to start out real simple, and we're going to make an output reflect the state of an input. So the first thing we want to do is here on our main page there's a button at the bottom called New Rule. If we click on that button, this will bring up a window that'll show different trigger conditions and the actions that we want to associate with them. For a simple rule, all we need to worry about is the box on the left and the box on the far right. For the left side, if we click this box, it shows us a list of all of our inputs and all of our outputs. And these are supposed to be the states of those inputs. So if we want the output to turn on when an input goes active, what we want to do is we want to check the box next to the input that we want, and we'll say, okay, when this is active, then we're going to turn on that output. We'll just leave this box on the right here empty for now, and we'll click OK. On the right side, this is where we control our actions. We want to control output 1, and we want it to turn on when that input goes active. So we click OK there. Now we can see the effects of that rule that we just generated by going up top here to the Edit button and clicking Simulate. Now here we have a simulation environment where we can control all of our inputs and see the effects on the outputs. So if we mark input 1 as active, we'll actually see that output 1 turns on when we do that. The problem is when we turn input 1 inactive, the output stays on. So we're going to need another rule to turn the output off. So I come back here and I make a new rule. On the left side, we're going to say when input 1 is inactive this time. On our action side, we'll actually turn off output 1. So I click OK, and now you'll see I've got both rules here in this window. So now I can go back to Edit Simulate, and when I activate input 1, the output turns on, and when I uncheck it, the output turns off, and that's what we wanted. So now let's look at how to edit a rule. Suppose we want to do the opposite. When input 1 goes active, the output turns off, and when it's inactive, the output turns on. We go back to our main page, and we'll select the first rule, and we'll click the Edit rule in the bottom left. Now this will bring up the same window as before, but it already has all our information filled in for us from last time. We're going to leave the trigger condition side the same for now. What we're going to change is the action. We're actually going to change it from turn on to turn off. And click OK. And for the second rule, we're going to edit it and change the action from turn off to turn on. Now you'll notice as I've been making changes that down here at the bottom, it's keeping track of what the action we're doing is. This lets you know what in general is going on with this rule, and it'll also tell you if you've made a mistake somewhere. For example, if I select output 2 but I don't choose turn on or turn off, it'll say at the bottom that I need to specify one of those, so I can correct that mistake. Let me just uncheck output 2 here. And now that I apply that rule, I can go back to Edit Simulate, and we'll see that output 1's already on, and when I activate input 1 it turns off. So we've got an inverse behavior right there, which is what we wanted. The last thing we want to do is to be able to save this configuration. If we go back to the main window, we can go to File, Save Configuration, and you can save it as whatever file you want. Alright, let's just say Input Controls. That's what we'll save it as. And from that same menu, you can also open other configurations that you saved previously. For example, I have one right here. If I open that, it populates all of the rules for me from the last time that I saved it. For the next video, we're going to look at making announcements using DTMF codes and building complex formulas.